Hey everyone, thanks for joining me for another podcast episode for CSM Practice, where we talk to customer success professionals and executives and even CEOs at times to explore what customer success means to them. What did they do that worked for them, and share some good practices with you and strategies and new tactics that you can implement within your own organization. And today, we're going to share a certain framework that helped a certain organization increase their net retention rate by 20%. And they did that within 1 year, between the beginning of 2023 and the end of 2023. So today's special guest is Rachel Stanley. Rachel comes to us from Banzai, where they use a specific framework that she's going to share with us in a very short while. But I wanted to kind of share that she has 10 years of experience in SaaS onboarding, training, implementation, consulting, e-learning, of course, customer success, adoption and support experience. So she's well-rounded in the realm of post-sales. Obviously, she's very passionate about high-functioning teams. And I think that the framework she's going to share with us today is going to help you do the same. Rachel, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Tell me a little bit about Banzai. What kind of clients do you work with? What kind of problems do you help them solve?
We work with marketers, so we're a MarTech company that builds, and we're also, especially this year, acquiring different MarTech companies. Our target is marketers that care about data. So all of our products will deliver some form of data to show the ROI of their marketing programs. Our mission is to help our customers accomplish their mission. I love it because it just reminds me that we're actually helping people every day, which I think as a CS professional, we all care about our customers. Our sweet spot is mid-market, B2B tech.
So would you say you have tens of customers, hundreds of customers, thousands of customers?
Thousands.
Tell me a little bit about your customer success team. Is it high touch, pooled model, pure digital CS?
It is a mix. So we do break it down by segment. We have multiple products. So one product is all high touch, has a little bit of a service layer to it. And then another product is self-service. It's very easy, but the premium plan gives you a dedicated CSM. So that becomes, even on that product, it's not like super high touch. Like we do kickoff onboarding and then check-ins. Our CSMs can handle up to 200 accounts for that product.
And is that a pooled model? I'm just curious.
No, it's not right now. I was just talking to our director of CS. I just actually promoted someone into director. And so we're just like starting to plan out with scaling. And the next thing we want to do is a digital CSM for that segment that isn't premium on our premium plan, because so I oversee customer marketing as well. That was just a decision we made instead of having them roll up to marketing because the objectives are the same. Like we wanted customer marketing to impact NRR. And so I've been kind of using her as a digital CSM.
So for your PLG business line, it is totally common to have marketing own things that usually customer success own, but they usually do that in high level of collaboration with CS. So I think what we've got going on naturally evolving into is perfectly fine. I will say that if anybody's listening and you're kind of like in the same boat, you have a very structured segmentation and you want to kind of learn more about a dynamic segmentation and double down on pooled model, which is a way more flexible model and way more scalable, and you want to double down on digital CS, one of the ways that you can learn more about it and accelerate the path in which you implement it is we have a few YouTube videos on our channel that deal with it, but also I'm just starting a mastermind program that I called it the customer method, because I do acknowledge every CS executive comes in with their own experience, and that we all need some help in some areas. This is the one place where you can find all these resources and get access to it so you can, first of all, have confidence in whatever engagement model you wish to start developing and that you have less experience, but you also are well networked and kind of gauge Is this the right direction? Can you show me an example of how you did it? How this person did it, this company did it. And I think that that's amazing. And for today, Rachel, maybe you can tell us, when did you start working with Banzai? And when you were taking on your role as a CS leader, what are some of the initial challenges you've noticed when you just started? What kind of goal do you have at the beginning of 2023 and why?
Yeah, so I started at Banzai in April of 2019. So just had my 5-year anniversary. And I actually came in as a CSM. I had previously led a training and implementation team, and I wanted to break into CS. And it's funny to think now, but like even 5 years ago, at least for me, it was still newer. My previous organization was just implementing CS. When I came in, I mean, we were a startup. Like it was just crazy. So it was interesting to come in from a mid-market organization and be able to implement processes and like more official onboarding and training and help build the team up. As is a wonderful opportunity with startups, our CEO just saw the need for adoption specifically because CS, at least at Banzai, has always been very sales focused. I know every organization is different. So I shifted for a time and focused on adoption, like the first 90 days of the customer journey. And then we acquired another company and I took on support and then took on leading the CS team and added customer marketing. So fast forward to the beginning of 2023, we had identified that NRR should be our North Star and how I should be measured and how that should trickle down. We had 3 company objectives. That was one of them. We started, like, the team called me the NRR czar. Like, I started an NRR meeting, adding the NRR focus. And at that time, we were trying to raise money. We ended up just recently in December 2023 going public. We've always been focused on objectives. NRR was established in 2022 as our main objective.
There wasn't like a specific challenge or an issue you were trying to solve for, but rather an opportunity to go public, an opportunity to focus on something that you thought had a lot of potentially like a gap between what it could be and what it was. And so the target goal was to increase NRR initially by what were your goals back then?
It was 10%.
I think this is where your framework comes in play. What was the kind of like the 1 or 3 things that you've done in order to get that happening at your company? What were you thinking around, okay, how am I going to make this happen?
So as far as implementing the framework, I do want to back up just because it might resonate. We realize as an executive team that we have executive QBRs every quarter. And we would kind of determine everything and then like come down from the mountain and tell our team what to do. And everybody was kind of working in silos and everyone knew they were supposed to be impacting one of the 3 company goals, for me, NRR being the main one, but they didn't have a lot of say. What we did in 2023 was switch to an OGSMT framework. It's objectives, goals, and then every goal underneath it, there's strategies, how to hit that goal. And then under each strategy is measures and then tactics. And so it's kind of like digging deeper into the objectives and KPIs framework. The benefits, once we rolled this out, is we also implemented a cross-functional team for every business unit. So we have Banzai OGSMT, but then the business units also have their own OGSMTs. The teams come together and they all proposed strategies. So basically the executive team determined the objectives and goals. And then we brought in like functional leaders, like a layer down, to propose strategies, to research them, give us summary and impact, level of effort, all of those things. Everyone else can weigh in and then together determine the best strategies to stick with.
So 1, you implemented OGSMT across the organization, but he also, in other words, sort of like cascaded it down so that it's not just an executive thing, which we typically see in most organizations, but it's also like every team, almost, or maybe even individual, like team leaders,
But
have
who?
specific initiatives and OGSMTs that connect to the overall go-to-market strategy or bigger initiative. Was there a third thing that you've done that you think made sort of like the trifecta for improving NRR by 20%?
I think for me, specific to NRR, which I just keep saying this even in our all staff meetings, the ways to impact NRR are retention, upsell/cross-sell, and reactivations. So those kind of ended up being our NRR strategies.
You had clear objective, which was to increase NRR by 10%. You defined your own OGSMT, but and then you also held your entire leadership team and probably some cross-functional teams enrolled in this higher goal and be very specific. And then for the NRR goal, you broke down the tactics that you applied to A, retention, B, cross-sell and upsell, and C, reactivation. So before we go into specificity, because I'm going to have you explain a little bit more what is OGSMT and some of the tactics you used in order to increase NRR. But before we go into that, 2023, this was a big focus, all these three areas. When you were all said and done, what happened to the business? What was the impact? I assume, yeah, of course, 20% increase. Was there anything else that changed in the business once you doubled down on all of these three areas?
Well, it definitely helped us go public. That was kind of like the end goal of the year, honestly.
So you went public. That's the SPAC. What changed in the team or the company's performance besides NRR or clients?
The impact of all of the tactics we did was to help our customers. Yes, it helped us reach our NRR, but it was also looked at the customer journey and determined the right touch points, even how to help them save money, like moving monthly to annual, how to get the most value, adding more education. I feel like our customers are highly engaged and very satisfied. Our CSAT scores are consistently at 97%.
Do you feel since 2023, now more clients are getting value faster, they're more engaged, and the CSAT and the overall experience had been elevated because you had the mission to increase NRR and all the different tactics that you applied? Was that ultimately the impact on the clients?
Yes.
What was the impact on the team?
Well, a huge boost in morale. Everyone was just so excited to see the numbers going up and work together. I mean, cross functionally as well. That was a huge win to watch because silos are pretty natural for product and engineering to work closely with customer success to determine the highest impact next feature. I'm passionate about building a team that loves what they do and is succeeding and giving them growth opportunities. So I've been able to give some promotions on the team. It was such a fun year.
For anybody that wants a similar result, meaning the ability to get a higher valuation on their company, increase net retention rate, not just by 1%, but at least 10 to 20%, make customers feel like they can win with you faster, be more engaged, increase customer satisfaction, and boost morale of employees, decrease silo. We talked about the trifecta. Do you think that if you did all these, you tried or attempted to do the retention, upsell, and reactivation tactics to increase NRR without this framework, would you have gotten the same results? Or what would have been the impact if you tried to do them without the OGSMT?
Well, I tried to do the same in 2022, like when I was named the NRR czar. At least for us, we didn't get the same results. Like my initial thing was like, okay, I'm going to have an NRR meeting. It just didn't work. I mean, we did improve, like having a named objective did improve it, but it still felt siloed. And so for anyone, like if you're a leader, you can implement OGSMT for your team. But if the whole organization can implement it, that's when it's a game changer because everyone was bought in.
So the tip in doing that is first and foremost, use it. Secondly, cascade it. Both horizontally is what I'm hearing, but also vertically.
Yep.
Do you have an example of your OGSMT framework? Maybe you have like a slide you can share, something visual that can demonstrate what it is?
We use Notion for our internal. So all of the, like you can see, I have different OGSMT pages on the side here, but you can see how it cascades down. So for customer experience strategies, specifically, this is what I look at for my team, but these are the different business units. So those are the ones that have more like product tactics and things like that that also impact NRR. But so for our strategies, it's retain, reactivate, cross-sell, upgrade, and build customer advocacy.
Okay, so what's the first step? And when do you start planning your OGSMT framework? When do you think you're going to start planning your OGSMT framework for 2025?
Q4.
What's the first step? You're setting up your objectives and goals?
Yes, exactly. So for us, our CEO with the combination of the exec team comes up with the company objectives and company goals. And we've solidified those in our Q4 QBR that we come together. That leaves basically December for the different leaders to nail down the OGSMTs for each business unit. We focus on business units first and then like the functions. Like we're looking at my CX functional page. It also helps with capacity planning because we want everyone on the team to commit to a measure that they can do. So the goals is more coming down from the executives, like this is what we need to get to. How are we going to get there? But then within each strategy, it's like that's a little more individual where it's what measures can you do? Like, let's look at capacity. It also allows them to challenge even our company goals. Like we've thought every which way, unless we can get these resources or this tool or whatever, then it's a good way to kind of negotiate during that time frame.
So you get your objectives and goals that are company wide. The CEO sets those up and he does that not in a vacuum, obviously, but in conversations with the leadership team. Do you approach your teams? I assume you have more than one team reporting to you and more than one line of business because you have multiple products, as you mentioned. Do you approach yours in a similar way? Do you have like multiple meetings with your team leads and kind of negotiate the goals and the objectives and the KPIs you're going to measure those by? How long does that process take?
I would say 3 weeks, but it works well for us though, because December is kind of slow in the business. And so it's a good time to plan.
So then you conclude what you think would be the right strategy based on you doing like a bottoms up approach where you ask your the people who report to you, make sure that it's reasonable, and then do you present it back to your CEO? Do you need to get an approval?
I don't need to get an approval, but it
Mhm.
is what I present at our executive QBR.
When you were in 2023 doing it for the first time, you're committing to all these objectives, very specific quantitative goals, NRR by 10%. That's quite ambitious, by the way. Did you find yourself needing to ask for an additional budget? And granted, you just told me that 2022, you were trying to do the same thing. It was very hard without this framework.
Yes.
How did that feel? Like, what happened there?
After not liking the progress I was seeing in 2022, I did ask for a customer marketer and senior CSM. Those two additions to the team were also a game changer. Thankfully, I found the right people.
I bet you made some sort of an assessment of why wasn't it super successful as you were hoping it to be in 2022? Where were the gaps? And one of the gaps that you identified is a talent gap or a resource gap. And thankfully, you got the budget. You started doing that. During the year, and you're in the middle of 2024, how often do you showcase progress towards goals? Because I assume you already kind of like identified what tactics you're going to use to implement these goals and objectives by working with your team in December. And so, what happens during the year? Do you revisit progress towards goals? And in 2023, did you change tactics while you were building the plane?
Yeah, it's actually been kind of a learning curve because I think everybody initially felt like they needed to pick tactics and stick with it. We're more in a flow of, okay, tactics are like things we want to throw on the board, cross off as done. We're a little more specific instead of like do X campaign. It's like launch campaign, monitor campaign. Like we're making it more specifics to be able to know exactly what stage of, like, lack of a better
For
word,
each
tactic.
quarter. So you say, okay, this period of time, we're just designing it and then we're going to launch it, monitor, and then maybe even scale, do more. Okay, so you're more specific around how you're going to approach it. So what does that serve as? Setting better expectations or just having a more rigorous process around the implementation of the strategies and the tactics you included in the framework?
Yeah, for us, being more specific on the tactics shows anybody can hop into one of these pages and know exactly what's going on, kind of the next steps. And we do meet regularly. My team for NRR, we do biweekly. We call it the NRR Ninja Sync. The business units meet weekly right now. It's just more like, okay, what did you do this week?
The framework is objectives. We talked about that. Goals are more specific and quantitatives, which calls for the measures. I assume the measures are part of the goal. So you don't necessarily define it in that order, but you do need to have specific measures. Are the measures for specific tactics or specific strategies or specific objectives and goal? Like how detailed are they?
The measures are for the strategy. So each strategy has a measure just for that strategy, where like the goals is the NRR goal. But here I have for customer advocacy, it's publish 5 case studies and attain 100 new fan club members. It's quantitative again, but it's specific to the strategy.
So, overall objective, then your goals for 2023 were increasing retention, upsell, and reactivation. This year, you obviously have advocacy too. So, good on you. And then for each strategy, back in 2023, you had a specific goal for retention, specific goal for upsell and cross sell, or maybe separately for each, and then a specific goal for reactivation. And so now that you know what you're going to measure, you know what the strategies are, what are the tactics that you had for each? If you want to see the full interview and get access to secret scenes, you need to sign up for my exclusive mastermind program, The Customer Method, and get instant access. I created the customer method to give you all the strategies, playbooks, tools, and the support you'll need in order to take your customer success practice within your own organization to the next level. And there's never been a better time than now to step up your business customer success game. So go ahead, check out the description below on how to join us, and I'll see you on the inside. Rachel, did I tell you how awesome you are? I love this session. I learned so much, and you're just so on top of it from the framework to the actual things that you do to your attitude, the company culture. It just sounds like so much fun, so many goodness that comes out of your company from Banzai. So thank you so much for sharing everything. I'm sure this is going to be one of our popular sessions.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right, awesome people. If you love this interview as much as I did, don't forget to give it a like, subscribe to our channel. All of your support is much, much appreciated. And with that, it's a wrap. I'll see you at the next video.